It's time for the third episode. Happy anniversary, Johnny Christ, no relation.
Oh, this is our third episode?
Yes, we made it. This might be the longest commitment I've had in my life since
Well, then I'm going to crack a beer about it.
Hey, you know what? I second that.
What do you got? A hazy IPA?
I do, an official.
Nice. I got a Lagunitas IPA.
Oh, I love that. You know what? My buddy PD Williams turned me onto those.
Yes. PD Williams. No name drop there at all. All right, cool.
No relation.
So how you doing today, Dennis?
I'm good, man. Listen, we're going to be honest with the group here. We're all friends. It's been a crazy week. I haven't watched much wrestling. I watched one wrestling match this week. So in order to cover it up and pretend that we're smart, I think we talk about the top 3 finishers that we like.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, these guys are clever. And really, it's because I just didn't watch any wrestling this week.
Well, I mean, I wasn't going to say that I didn't watch any wrestling. I watched tons of wrestling, but you were the one that was slacking this week, not me. What? So, since you're the one with the ideas, let's roll with it. We'll do our top 3 finishers, but we should stay a little current. What was the one match that you watched this week?
It was the Britt Baker Thunder Rosa match. I tuned in just in time. I'm
pretty pissed about that because I have to go back and rewatch that. I'll explain why. Go on.
Now, I will say this. We are kind of always a week behind based on when this airs on Fightful. So we always kind of talk a week behind. This should go on next week's, but I did watch the beginning of this week's Raw thinking Cody Rhodes was going to show up. And, PD's a producer for WWE. So he's like, hey, okay. You may want to watch Raw tonight. I'm like, I don't know. He goes, hey, don't miss the first 5 minutes. I'm like, fine. So I sit down, I turn it on, I crack a beer. All of a sudden, Stone Cold's music comes on. I'm like, it's Stone Cold. And Kevin Owens walks right out. I'm like, what a dick.
I love that. I didn't catch that. I have a beef with the Rampage stuff though, because I knew that Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa match that was on Rampage, right? Or was it on?
Oh, it was either. I don't even remember now. My week was so crazy. I think it was Dynamite.
So I haven't gotten that far into Dynamite yet. I was watching today. I record everything, but I went to watch Rampage from Friday. And some bullshit called March Madness was on instead of that recording.
Never heard of it.
Yeah, I don't know. It was a real bummer. All right. Let's put it, as a wrestling fan and a basketball fan, I was still bummed out because I don't like college basketball. I don't like this exploitation of these kids. And I'll be fucking completely candid and honest about it. I don't watch college ball because of that. And I know they're moving in the right direction, but it's only taken them how many years to even start to move in the right direction? I'm sorry. It's bullshit.
I always said if anybody's making money off your name and likeness, you should have something put into a bank account for you.
Right.
So
yeah. All right. Anyways, the one thing that I did see this week that I got caught up on, I have to give mad props to my boy Chris Jericho, because his in-ring promo with Jericho Appreciation, such a great reinventing. He's so good at becoming the heel again and again, and this time was no other to me. I was like, oh. He knows exactly the fan base over at AEW. It's all, let's call him the more hardcores. The guy, he made them hate him all over again, simply calling himself a sports entertainer. Brilliant move, Chris. Once again, proving why you are the GOAT.
I can't knock it, dude. The sports entertainer line right there was perfect. And
nailed.
It's everything AEW fans hate. Mm-hmm. And it's the big divide, I think, between wrestling fans. It's the sports entertainment aspect, which I'm not even lying to you. I love it. The WWE reinvented wrestling with just the entrances and the entrance music.
Right.
And I mean,
that's very apropos that we're talking about that as sport on the side of sports entertainment rather than wrestling. We're talking about the top 3 finishing moves. Finishing moves for hardcore wrestling fans aren't what they are for the sports entertainment fans, I think. And that's why we'll get into this, but that's my opinion on the matter. And these are going to be my top three, not yours. I don't give a fuck what your top three are. These are my top three. Let's go.
See, now I will say one thing that you have right. I the art of the finisher is no longer finishing somebody off, but it's like the period on a great wrestling ballet. And some of these moves that you see as a finisher in real life aren't going to finish, but you know what? When you see it, it's iconic.
I agree. I think it's part of the art, and part of it that I grew up in loving wrestling. And there's a few guys who are doing some cool stuff. I'm going to throw out some honorable mentions as we go through these three, because it is extremely hard for me to pick just three finishing moves, especially when there's a lot of great ones that are coming around, right? I got to give props to my boy, Darby Allin, with the coffin drop. Reason being, it is like the new age elbow drop, and no one has tried to reinvent the elbow drop since. And this is a new way of doing it to me. It reminds me so much of that. And then, of course, the one-winged angel from Kenny Omega is another great finishing move to me. Now, I'm sure that might have been a New Japan move before. I didn't watch that shit. This is my truth and the way that I fucking saw it. He slays that finishing move.
Episode 3, and he's cussing and so much more. I love it. This
so
is
angry.
Real Johnny Christ.
I'm heated. There's some other honorable mentions though, because I can't get to three.
If I had to do a honorable mention right now, mine would be the DDT.
That's a great one.
At the time, so revolutionary. And I tried to put it in my top three. I honestly did. But when Jake the Snake hit it, and even Raven would hit his DDT, that was such an awesome, devastating move. And it's almost like the Canadian Destroyer now, where everybody's doing it on every match 19 times. Every time I still see a good DDT done, I appreciate it.
Well, you named the two greats to do the DDT, and Jake the Snake has to be number one. Raven would fall under second on that, unfortunately for him. But yeah, Jake the Snake's DDT is the best, most. It's the harshest looking DDT to this day.
I agree.
And yeah, he nailed it. He fucking nailed it. Props to you, Jake.
You know who else has a very good looking DDT is Randy Orton, where he does his DDT with the two legs in the middle rope and he drops. I still love that DDT too.
Well, again, there's so many great finishing moves. Triple H going back to even Hunter Hearst Helmsley with the pedigree. That was such a fun take on a pile driver to me. You know, there's another
one. There's another finishing move, the pile driver. Holy shit.
Well, we haven't got to our three. That are you naming that as? Oh, you're just saying pile driver. I'm sorry. Yeah. Yes. Okay. We might have one that might be in the same, but yeah, the pile driver is definitely up there. And then, you know, and these are finishing moves, and you can go into finishing holds. Is that a sub category or?
I think we could throw it in, because there are several I went back and forth on that. I'm like, well, it's kind of a finishing move, but he kind of used it to set up a finishing move, but it's super iconic.
Some of them were the finishing moves.
Right.
I mean, the figure four by Ric Flair, the sharpshooter from Bret Hart.
Those count.
The sleeper from Roddy Piper. I mean, you got to go to all of these holds and think about them too. And the walls of Jericho. I mean, even going way back to the Boston Crab, that was a finishing hold of once upon a time.
Now, I will say Jericho's WCW walls, the Lionheart one where he had it up higher, still my favorite version of that, because that just looks so much more painful than a regular one.
Yeah. The Scorpion Death Lock.
Yep.
It's there's all great holds. I stuck on my three to more traditional moves, I think. And full being candid here. Before we hit record, I will admit, as I'm talking, I'm still mulling around which ones are my top three.
I've got 2 out of 3.
I've got 4.
It's going to be a tough one, because I'm still trying to cycle through, because there's so many iconic moves. So,
before we move on, there's one other honorable mention I have to get to. 2 others. Hulk Hogan leg drop, honorable mention, because of the build up to it. Not necessarily the greatest leg drop of all time, in my opinion. Yes. but the build up makes it that much cooler. The getting everybody involved. Amazing. Second one, Mr. Sacco going in the mouth by Mick Foley.
Oh, that's another great one. God darn it. You're naming some iconic ones. All right. So let's start. Do you want me to start it off? Okay. Because you're chugging my number 3, which I really wanted to put at number 1. But I think it was more of the man than the move, but it's Macho Man Randy Savage's elbow drop from the top rope.
Yeah.
Just when he gets up there and he puts his fingers up there and then he, pats the elbow, and just the way he flew through the air. And then
how many times as a kid did you try to emulate that move?
All the time, jumping onto the bed or off onto the couch onto your dad or whoever. I mean, it was that was the move when you were our age. And that happened at a time where there wasn't a ton of high flyers out there. I mean, you had who's the guy who killed his girlfriend, and then
Jesus, man.
Why did I forget his name?
Are you talking about
Superfly
Jimmy Snuka?
Yeah.
The ultimate?
I blanked on him.
You blanked on him, but came up with like one of the horrible memories of him. Come on, man. You can't do that shit.
The guy that with the pineapple to the head guy. Yeah.
That would have made more sense, but no, you had to go with killed his fucking girlfriend. Like, fuck, man.
It's a good day. I like to think of the positive in things. Okay.
Jesus.
But that move right there, when he went up, you knew it was over. And oh man, that Macho, and still to this day, watching those videos and watch them fly through the air. And when you fly, you see the camera flashing in the background. That's my number 3.
All right. Well, before I get to my number 3, my last honorable mention, I have to say, is the Diamond Cutter from Diamond Dallas Page. It is one of the most, and I'm sorry I have to leave it out of the top 3, and I'll get to why. Because the move itself should be a top 1, just the move itself. But I'm more of a setup kind of guy, and that one came out of nowhere, which is what's kind of brilliant about it. But for my buck, for my entertainment, I'm a build-up. I'm a theatrics guy. I don't know, and that's why my number 3 of all time.
Let me ask you this: you left the Diamond Cutter off. Did you slip in the RKO somewhere in your 3?
I don't know. Have we gotten there yet? Come on, Dennis. Why are you jumping the fucking gun?
That would have been funny if it was, though. I will lie.
It's definitely not. But no, the Diamond Cutter was genius, and at the time, and today you see all the memes and the virtual things. If you follow DDP, which if you don't, you should. He's got the hilarious fan ones that he always posts where it looks like he's coming off of out of nowhere. Someone's getting hit with a Diamond Cutter. Yep. That's what it felt like in the late 90s. Some of you youngsters out there listening or watching maybe don't know. You got to go back and watch some of that shit. But that takes me to my number 3.
Your number 3.
And it's not because of the devastation of the move or anything like that. It's the theatrics. And it is the tombstone pile driver from The Undertaker. The way you knew when that was coming after a choke slam. A choke slam wasn't even the finishing move. That was leading into it. Before the choke slam is a walk across the top rope with a nice to the middle, and then this nice shoulder tap, getting you set up for the tombstone pile driver. And then when you got flipped over, you dropped. And not only did everyone know it was over, as soon as he crossed your arms and the eyes went into the back of his head and the hair went back. Oh man, that was when I was a kid. When I watched that for the first time, I fell in love. That was like, this is my favorite wrestler of all time at this moment. And it was because of that move and the way it just, the name Tombstone Pile Driver worked with every facet of The Undertaker. And it looked like the end. It looked like you're getting buried alive. And I fucking loved that.
And you know what? For me, you're leaving out one of the best moments too, is when Paul Bearer would hold the urn up. Ooh. And you knew it was coming. You knew that was when that thing was
when he looked to the corner.
Yep.
And it was time.
So
the Undertaker's a top 3, has to be in there. Tombstone Pile Driver.
Let me ask you this. What is your favorite version of The Undertaker while we're talking about him?
For me, I liked the American Badass just fine, but for my dollar, it was the OG. My favorite era was when he had Paul Bearer for the first time, when he was, I think it was really when he came in as a heel. He was supposed to be a heel, and no one knew how the crowd would just gravitate towards him, and he could no longer be a heel. And he was just loved that much. When he was dark, when he didn't talk much, the hat. That's how I will always remember the Undertaker, is the big round hat and the hair just in his face. I actually wish I had a picture of it now. But when I was in third grade, I went to school for Halloween dressed as the Undertaker in that version.
Yeah, because I was watching something on WWE just recently, and they were kind of going through it. And then there's that version. Then there's like the purple version where he had the purple gloves and the purple tie, and then the American Badass. And then they kind of, well, I'd say before that was the Ministry version of the Undertaker. All the same Undertaker, but all different versions of him. And there was a guy. I don't give Undertaker a ton of credit, but there's a guy that did the smallest adjustments to his look, and it was just a whole new character, almost being in the same world as the character.
Absolutely, he reinvented his way in a more subtle way than a lot of the other guys who had the length of career that he had. It's truly amazing, and however you get there, every wrestler is different, but however you get there is how you get there, and I think he did it great. And I think you touched upon one of the times when he was tag teaming with Kane, and that was a great era for the Taker. When he kind of stepped into more of a prominent promo, and I think that was pretty cool too. But again, maybe it's just me being a homer and thinking about my young self, but the gray and black original Undertaker, after pretty much a few months after he parted ways with the $1 Million Man, and it was Paul Bear, and it was him, and it was going. And I mean, that feud when $1 Million Man brought in the fake Taker to Survivor Series, man, that blew my fucking mind when I was a kid. Loved it.
My next, as my number 2, wasn't super popular, wasn't super big, but anytime I played the Nintendo 64 WCW versus NWO or whatever it is, I always picked Perry Saturn because he had this Death Valley Driver move where it's
great
almost
one. Great pick, Dennis.
Thank
I like
you.
to bust your balls here on this show, but that was a fucking good prick.
That finishing move, and I think you still see it occasionally, should have been a bigger move. And for anybody that doesn't know, Google it, because aesthetically, it just looks devastating, where it's almost like the guy has him up like a torture rack, but he's flat on his back, belly up, and just drives him down. And when he hits right, man, it just looks like an L. And the Death Valley Driver right there would be my, and anytime I created a character, even now when I play, listen, spoiler alert, I'm a nerd, I play video games still. I try to,
I think that makes you cool these days, by the way, Dennis. I think you're a nerd if you don't play video games now.
Here's the problem.
Turned.
I'm 44, so that doesn't make me a nerd anymore. That makes me have to explain to women, like, look, I'm a gamer, but I don't game every weekend, and I'll pick boobs over video games. It's like, I feel like now at 44, you have to backtrack. Like, I play a little bit, but I will always go out with a girl over video games now. So there's a dance that has to be done there when you explain to her why you have a PS5 and you haven't had a date in 3 months. So
they should be stoked if you got a PS5. That means you're like, fuck, man, you're balling.
That's all I'm saying. But yes, the Death Valley Driver for me is my number 2. Johnny.
All right. I love that one. And it made me think of another couple of honorable mentions, but I know we got to go on. I mean, the HBK's version of Sweet Chin Music. He had a way of doing it, man. And it was fantastic. But another amazing showman takes me to number 2. And again, you guys are going to learn, this is only the 3rd episode in, and I've said it. I'm a man of the theatrics. I'm a man of the show of it all, which takes me to the People's Elbow from The Rock. Yeah, I said it. A whole setup, the sidewalk slam in the center of the ring, getting everybody from one side to the other, the throwing of the elbow pad, all to come down with the most electrifying move in all of wrestling, the People's Elbow. And to me, for that reason that I said, is why The Rock's on my number 2 best finisher of all time, the People's Elbow. I dare you to argue it.
Can't. At first I thought you were going the rock bottom, which is just as good. But, the slow pull of the elbow pad off, the throwing it into the crowd, and that the vision of like one section, 40 hands reaching up for it as he does, just the setting that up. That's, I think, was one of the hallmark of The Rock was the timing of that rock bottom where he didn't rush it and you just waited for it every single time.
Oh, every time you go back, if you didn't live through that era and you think I'm being silly, I am being silly, but in a great way. Go back and watch it. You will see there's one thing that is undeniable. That move was more over than anything had been at that point. Everyone knew what was coming, what was going to happen, and they could not contain themselves. Watch the flashlights going off in those fucking rooms before people had cell phones. This thing was fucking over.
I agree. Now, I'm going to throw out an honorable mention here, which I kept trying to slide it into my list, but it should be on the list. And it's a current move. It's underrated. But the Seth Rollins curb stomp.
That's a great one. I didn't even think about that one.
That should have been on my list. I couldn't fit it in. And it breaks my heart because I thought that was a phenomenal move. And I kind of like you, where The Rock had 2 finishing moves, which was the rock bottom sometimes or the People's Elbow.
Right.
I'm going to go with a move that sometimes was used as a finisher, but I would call it a signature move. Is this going to be allowed?
Well, let's hear how good it is, because this is your number 1. We're going with your number 1. This
is my number 1.
Your number 1 is questionable. Okay,
my number 1 is questionable. Like, it's a signature move. It had been moved. It's been used as a finisher sometimes, but it's a more of a setup move. But when it's done right, it is phenomenal.
All right, let's hear it.
It is the Eddie Guerrero 3 Amigos hold on suplex, where he keeps suplexing the guy over and over and over. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I agree with you, but if you're not going with the Guerrero splash, I don't know that I can give you this, because I thought about the Guerrero splash. I was not thinking about the suplex is amazing, but it is not a finisher.
I know. So I you know what? I'll put that as an honorable mention then. And that 5-star frog splash is great. Who did it better though? Let me ask you this: what, RVD, Rob Van Dam, or Eddie Guerrero?
Fuck, that's tough, dude. They both have a phenomenal one, but I gotta go with Eddie Guerrero, because for me, I didn't see a lot of ECW out here, so I didn't see Rob Van Dam in the early years. I saw Eddie do it to that perfection first. So I got to go with Eddie on it, the late, great Eddie Guerrero.
Well, then my number 1, Bret the Hitman Hart sharpshooter.
Oh, that's a great one.
Because just like us being as kids on the couch doing the elbow drop onto your dad or your friend, how many times have you put somebody into a sharpshooter, or how many times have you been put into a sharpshooter? That move is so iconic. You think of that move right there, made Stone Cold Steve Austin who he is when he was put into it in one of the WrestleManias. He had blood coming down his face,
and he wouldn't give up.
He wouldn't give up. That right there, A, made that move look devastating. B, made Stone Cold Steve Austin look like the toughest son of a bitch in the world. And you knew when Bret Hart got that in, it was over.
I agree. I will absolutely agree. And to your point of how many times you've been put in it, I put my father in it so hard that I wouldn't let go. When he kicked out and he thought I was going to let go, I held on. My face hit the rug and I had rug burn on my face for a week. The teachers at school thought I was getting beat by my dad, and I had to tell them that I wasn't.
Yeah,
story.
He just let me put him in the sharpshooter.
And I wouldn't let go.
Yeah. Wow. Did he beat your ass when he got up? By
What?
the
No,
way,
no,
how?
no, 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 no. I was in the sharpshooter. You're
Oh,
missing. Or
okay.
no, I
I thought
had him in the sharpshooter. He kicked his legs,
right. Well,
and
that's
I
what I was,
held on, and my face went. So why would he kick my ass? My face was already beaten up from hitting the floor.
yeah, but you wouldn't let go. If I let my kid put me in the sharpshooter and she wouldn't let it go, when I got up, I'd have put her in a torture rack or something.
Oh no. He was proud. He's like, yeah, I can't believe you didn't let go. He kind of laughed at it. He's like,
Wow.
you would rather take the rug to the face than let go. Kind of
That
proud of
is
that.
that's crazy. By the way, I apologize. That's my whiny cat,
No,
which
it's
means
okay.
we should start wrapping this up soon. All right, you're number one.
All right. Well, you mentioned my number one. Well, you mentioned the guy who does my number one just a moment ago. That's right. Everybody knows it. It's the Stone Cold fucking Stunner. Give me a hell yeah. Give me a fucking hell yeah. Because in the Attitude Era, there was nothing more over than watching Vince McMahon in the hospital take a fucking Stone Cold Stunner, getting flipped off in the face, beer chugging all over the fucking goddamn ring. And I will give another hell yeah to that. That is my top finishing move of all time. There was a lot of tough ones that I want to put up for a lot of different reasons, but I keep my three this way this week for the showmanship. It's not necessarily the move, but the showmanship and what and the how over these moves were at the time. I mean, it's insane, and there's there's no better move in for me in my era for my fandom of wrestling to end a match or end just a promo. That was the other great thing about it. It just ended everything. As soon as he dropped it, that scene was done and you knew it. And that was for me, Stone Cold Stunner, hands down, my favorite move.
Do you like Kevin Owens' version of it?
I think he does a great version, but it doesn't have the attitude that the Stone Cold Stunner had. He does a great stunner, don't get me wrong. And I think another stunner, not to throw another, Darby Allin has a really fun stunner where he flips over the guy and still does the stunner. It's very different. But for my dollar, it's all about that attitude. It's all about hitting it and walking off like this motherfucker.
I don't know if there's really a way we can end the show other than that. I mean, hang on. Hey, if you keep me out, I'm going to take you to a nursing home or something. All right, I'm back. I love my cat. I would never get rid of her. Humane Society. Anyways, so listen, let's wrap this up. I've got things to do. You got things to do.
I got to go do another podcast in like 20 minutes. That's why I was trying to squeeze this in real quick.
Who are you doing it with?
I got Mass Wolf, the guy who did astronaut in the ocean, and he's fucking had a huge year of music and sounds like a really great dude. I've been doing some research. I can't wait to talk to him. Just he's going to be on Zoom all the way from Sydney, Australia. Be 1:00 his time. I'm very curious to see if he's going to crack a beer with me.
Well, tell him I said hi. He has no clue who I am, by the way.
Neither do I.
All right, listen. Drinks with Johnny. What are you on? Episode 3 or 4 now of the season?
Oh, this season? No, we just dropped the 100th episode of Drinks with Johnny.
100 episodes. Who was the 100th guest?
My good friend and artist, Cam Rackham. He's done a lot of art for my band, Avenged Sevenfold. He's done a lot of great things. He's been with us since day one. In fact, he's been with us BC before Christ. He was one of the friends before I joined the band. So love him to death. Fans know him of my band, and he couldn't have been a better guest for to ring in 100 episodes of Drinks with Johnny for me. And we've got so many more this season. We're in season 4. No signs of slowing down. I'm having way too much fun with that one.
Can I be a guest on like season 7 or 17?
We'll see. I mean, you're going to have to remind me who you are.
Don't worry. I will send you my credentials. I have a headshot. I'll even autograph it for you. You can put it on your wall in the back behind your guitars or behind the poster too. You could just put it up and then the poster over it.
Yeah, that's probably more likely what will happen.
All right. Drinks with Johnny. Go make sure you download, subscribe, rate The Wrestling Perspective. We interview people. You like that? Go.
Who's on that show with you? Is that just you? You got other people on the show?
I know some guy in a small band. You probably never heard of Rancid. I mean, not many people have. So
shout out to the boy Lars.
yes, Lars
from
Fredrickson.
Massive.
So I mean, if you don't know who that is, then hit stop because we're done anyways. See what I did there? All right.
Oh hell yeah.
Oh hell yeah. All right. Good night, guys. It's this week's 3. Thank you. We'll see you next week.